Welcome to Seahawks Draft Blog live stream, instant reaction live stream. Rob Staton and Robbie Williams with you tonight. And the Seahawks are 2-1. They've beaten the Carolina Panthers. I honestly, Robbie, I've not seen a lot of this game. I've been broadcasting. We covered the Chiefs and the Bears, and then we flipped at halftime to watch the Dallas Cowboys lose to the Arizona Cardinals, which was pretty funny. So I've kind of been in and out on the game. I've made some notes based on what I think I saw, but you give me your take. What should we be thinking about the Seahawks after this 37-27 win today?
I mean, I still don't know what to make of this team. I mean, there's a lot of question marks. It wasn't a particularly exciting game. There was a couple moments, but for the most part, it was like, I feel like, they gave us a lot of opportunity more than we took care of opportunities. You know what I mean? Like they gave us opportunities to continue, going. There's a lot of false starts by them, which was cool to see. But I just felt like we, I don't know. I just there's something about it that nothing about it is certainly like popping out to me as like, oh, this team has the making of something special. It seems like a good team. I'm not saying we're not by any means. I can't figure out what to make of them. That's kind of what it is. And yeah, I mean, Nublis just said right there. I mean, we did have 4 starting linemen out, so I mean, you got to take that in consideration for sure with the offense, because I was expecting the offense to be. I mean, yeah, look, we put up 37, but I was expecting them to be better. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's hard to explain, but I'll take it. There's going to be. I'd rather put up 37 than have put up 17 and have it be a really boring outing. So I'll take it.
Yeah, I think what we're kind of learning about this team, and I'm right with you. Based on what I was sort of seeing there, it felt like for a large portion of this game, I suspect a lot of fans will have been frustrated because it was a lot of settling for field goals. It was feeling closer than it needed to be. It had a real sense, I thought, of this is another backup quarterback. It's Andy Dalton again. It's just taking what's on offer there in the passing game, and they're going to come to Seattle, and it's going to be another one of those horrible home losses, or they're going to escape with a win. So I'm pleased in the end that it's a 10-point victory. It's not something where they were hanging on at the end. They have scored nearly 40 points, so you have to give them credit for that. But at the same time, Robbie, I don't know. I feel like we're within a right to expect a bit more from the offense, and I think there's still a lot of question marks about the defense. So, I mean, from an offensive point of view, it looked to me a little bit like, you correct me if I'm wrong with this, like there was some inconsistency with the running game a little bit, but then with the passing game, Geno Smith, there were one section in the game where he's thrown a near interception, and then like 2 plays later, he manages to throw the interception, and I'm watching that and I'm thinking, this is the Geno Smith that was in the league up until 2022 season. They're making these kind of mistakes, not able to lift the team from a slumber, not able to get them going. I mean, at the end of the game, he's finished 23 of 36 for nearly 300 yards, a touchdown and an interception, but the touchdown came right at the end, 87.3 passer rating. It's a so-so performance, but this is why at the start of the season, I'm talking to you, Robbie, and writing articles about, I'm cautious that what we're going to get with Geno Smith is we're going to get some really good games like last week, and then we're going to get games like this, and we're going to get games like the Rams game, and it's going to be really difficult at the end of the year to determine whether we want to keep this guy on $40 million when we've only got $1 million cap space next year if we keep him, or whether we have to look in a different direction. And that's a horrible place to have to be, when you're trying to determine what to do at that most important position. But it's not even just him. It's the usage of certain players. Now, I don't want to, I've got some positives written down here, and I want to get to them because with the win, I think it's only right that you do focus on the more positive aspects. But I have to ask, Robbie, what's the point of spending a first-round pick on Jackson Smith-Njigba if you've got no idea what to do with him?
Yeah, I'm not really sure. He only had 2 targets today. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what they were doing. I mean, you see it there. He's got the skill for sure, and I was excited about seeing how they were going to use him. And it seems like maybe he's opening up the field a little bit more for the tight ends. maybe that's something because I felt like the tight ends were getting a couple extra good looks here and there, and had quite a few targets. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not really sure. I mean, yeah, first round decoy, exactly. I mean, I'm not sure. That it's interesting.
It just feels to me, I don't know what it is though. Is it him? Is he just not playing particularly well? Is it a lack of chemistry with the quarterback because he's a new player? Uh, it's hard to work out because, DK Metcalf took the league by storm when he came in and had an immediate impact to this team. And Tyler
Yeah.
Lockett had an immediate impact with this team. So we've seen, yeah, and you could also use examples like Golden Tate, who took a bit of time to settle into things. And, they've never worked it out with D. Eskridge, but then injuries and suspensions are probably a main reason for that rather than anything to do with talent. So I don't know. I don't know what it is. There may be reasons for it, but to have so much excitement to actually make an investment of a first round pick, a game like this to me, Robbie, felt like an ideal opportunity against the Panthers team that I think it's pretty clear they might be competitive, but in certain games, but they're pretty bad. This was an opportunity to get him going a little bit. Even if it's just sort of like ball catches for 40 yards or something like that. Just to get a bit of momentum into his season, because I genuinely believe that as much as the identity or the preferred identity might be hard-nosed running and defense, the way that this team is going to be able to take on a Niners or anybody else for that matter is going to come with a passing game. They have too many options, too many weapons for that not to be the focal point of this team. And you have to warm them up. You have to get them involved. Maybe I need to go and watch the whole thing, Robbie, and I'll have a different take on this. And it'll just be a case of, hey, do you know what? That offensive line's banged up to heck. They did a good job of just getting through this. And maybe that'll be my takeaway. But I can't help but feel a little bit like, they've got Zach Charbonnet a little bit involved today. 9 runs for 46 yards. So a bit more of him. He could have had more yards. Penalties hurt him there. Can we start to see a bit more of Jackson Smith-Njigba moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good idea. Go back and kind of watch it. Maybe you can see something different. But just from my eye test of watching the game, it felt like he was a decoy. To be honest, like I don't know why they didn't target him more. So I think somebody said a lot of mouths to feed. I agree. Threw the ball 36 times. I mean, there's got to be a way though to get him involved to help the offense. I just don't get his usage by any means. But I definitely like the way Ken Walker ran the ball today. There's a couple of plays that I felt like Jaron Reed played really well today. But there's a couple plays there that I felt like that Geno Smith was just locked in and didn't like go through his progressions. He was always going to throw to the running back, or he was always going to throw to the tight end, or whatever it was. And I feel like maybe that has something to do with it as well. He's just making up his mind prior to actually getting going through his progressions.
Got some super chats. I'm going to come to them in a second, but as I said, they've won the game, so I do want to talk about the positives as well. I'm just so glad that Jaron Reed's back in Seattle, Robbie, and I'm not for a second suggesting that he is. Again, I've not seen the whole game. You may well tell me it was bloody awful, apart from the sacks. But assuming 1.5 sacks, they're very reliant on him because if he goes down, goodness knows what they're going to do on the defensive line. But I never really understand why he left Seattle. I think they should have found a way to work through their issues with Jaron Reed. And it created a bit of a hole for a while. He's so important to have back now. And whereas Seattle have this tendency, or I've brought players in that have worked out elsewhere, and it just hasn't worked for them in Seattle. Jaron Reed is the reverse of that. It feels like he plays his best football in this city. That the Seahawks are almost his team, and that he plays his best ball with us. So I know that signing received mixed reviews. I said at the time, I was really happy with it. Draymond Jones and then getting Jaron Reed, I was very happy with that. And I think if the Seahawks are going to do anything this year, Robbie, they obviously need Jaron Reed to stay healthy. But I think he is a really good signing for me. What do you think?
No, I totally agree. I think he balled out today. You're going to watch the tape and you're going to see he did a lot of good things today. Yeah, I hate to say it. I'm not trying to be negative, but you're going to watch this and you're going to get really frustrated with our safeties. I'm just telling you. Julian Love again and Quandre Diggs were, I felt, both just awful, just absolutely awful. So, but yeah, Jaron Reed is he played really well today. Really well. I think you'll watch it and you'll like it.
Sorry, I was talking. You know, I'm sat next to my box here. I was chiming in there, and I'd actually put the fader up from which I'm doing the radio show rather than pressing the unmute button. So that was just ridiculous. I wondered why you couldn't hear me. Yeah, so Jaron Reed, just a note, and Julian Love is on my list, by the way. His name is on there to get to. Jaron Reed, 1.5 sacks officially rather than the 2. They shared a sack with Jordan Brooks. 1 tackle for a loss, 1 pass deflection, 3 QB hits, which was the most on the team. Really good play from Jaron Reed. So good for him. Let's get to the super chats. Taker610 says, what is the best British sports slang to describe what happened to Denver today? 70 points on 700 yards of offense. Wow. You know, I knew there's the 70 points. I'd seen that, but 700 yards of offense. There's plenty of British slang that I could use right here to describe that, because the British are world number 1 when it comes to swearing and slang. So there are lots of words I could use. I am going to not use one of those and just refer to an old favorite and say, clearly, Denver were a load of bollocks today. That is just crazy, Robbie. I mean, look, the thing is, you know what? People will go, you know, by the sounds of things, it ain't Russ and Sean Payton that are necessarily the problem of offense. It sounds like that Denver defense has just completely collapsed.
I think that I watched that game today, so I think the defense, the way they're collapsing, is masking a lot of problems that they have in offense as well. So, yeah, it was pretty bad.
Well, maybe Russ will be replaced by Caleb Williams, because I tell you what, the Arizona Cardinals played their arse off today, and all the people saying that they were going to tank, they ain't tanking.
No,
and
3 games in a row they've put together some games. Hey, so they're playing.
Jonathan Gannon might not be able to give an inspiring speech, but he can get his players playing, because they gave, that wasn't just a win today. They gave Dallas a kicking. You know, they really got after Dallas today. So that was a very impressive win. And anybody assuming that there'll be 2 wins for the Seahawks this season, I would hold your horses on that one. Thank you for the super chat, Taker 610. Corey says, the Panthers shot themselves in the foot more than the Seahawks won the ball game. That is Corey's view on it. Robbie, is that a fair point? Would you agree with that, or is that a little bit harsh? What do you think?
I don't think it's harsh. I mean, that's kind of what I was saying at the beginning. I felt like the Panthers kind of really did shoot themselves in the foot quite a bit. But again, at the same time, we did the necessary right things to capitalize on those mistakes. So, I mean, you can't blame a team for that happening. But I do feel like they gave us a lot of opportunity, more than it felt like, how you just take a game to someone. That didn't feel like that. It felt like, they gave us a lot of opportunity instead of us just taking it to them. So, but we capitalized when we needed to on the things that were given to us.
It's funny because I'm seeing a real mixed reaction. I saw Joe Fan tweeting after the game that it was a great win because of all the injuries. So again, because I've kind of dipped in and out of the game, I'm thinking, oh right, okay, is that kind of the vibe that I'm getting from this? And Curtis said, to not play your best, and he put this in the comments, to not play your best and still find a way is a positive. But then I'm also seeing a lot of people kind of just going meh, shrug, whatever. There's still some issues there. It wasn't entirely convincing. This is a Panthers team that aren't very good. They just aren't very good. I thought they looked awful last week against the Saints, and I thought we were going to blow them out today. And then when Dalton was announced as the star, I probably eased back on that thought a little bit, but I still thought it'd be a really comfortable win. So in the end, it's a 10-point win, but they're giving up 27 points again. This one from Jeremy, super chat. Thank you, Jeremy. Thanks, fellas. Our defense is pedestrian, made Andy Dalton look like Brady. No Jackson Smith-Njigba, and Wagner is no longer the man he once was. This is the thing. Like you've got sort of layers here, Robbie. So our expectation with the defense was that it was going to, or our expectation probably wasn't. Is not the right words. Because my expectation, I think, as probably was yours and many others, was that we're probably going to struggle at the start of the year again. But the hope will have been just don't be as bad as last year. You know, be able to limit the yardage, to contain teams, to be a better pass rushing unit, and most of all, improve against the run. Now, I'm having a look. The running stats again were much improved. So rushing yards for the Panthers, 44 from 14 rushing attempts, 3.1 yards per rush. That's really good. I've absolutely no doubt that when Pete Carroll does his interview on 710 tomorrow, that may well get brought up. But I suppose the offset of that, Robbie, is that teams are passing at will. And when we're not playing we've not played, it's unfair because Sean McVay and Stafford are playing well, and the Lions played well against the Chiefs. But what I'm basically saying is, you know, I think there may be tougher tests ahead, and they're giving up 378 total yards today, 334 passing. So while teams are not exploiting the Seahawks against the run, they are kind of having the way against Seattle with the pass. And the pass rush is not performing perhaps as well as we'd hoped, given the investment it's had. And this secondary, which has had an awful lot spent on it, you know, money at safety, and we're going to get on to Julian Love, high draft pick at cornerback now. It should be doing better than this, shouldn't it, Robbie? If we're going to really sort of believe in this team, like they were saying in the game, that the announcer's saying that Pete Carroll thinks they've got something special going on here. Well, until this defense plays a lot better against mediocre opponents at home with the crowd noise advantage, it's hard to sort of feel as positive as that, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm kind of reading a lot of these comments. People think that that you know everything. A lot of this has to do with a lot of the injuries. I mean, to a point, I agree, but at the same time, like, I'm really disappointed in the way Julian Love was playing. Like, he's not wrapping up or tackling, you know, and I feel like there's multiple opportunities that he could have had, you know, made some really good plays, and you know, you already know my thoughts on Quandre Diggs. I just don't know, man. I'm really interested to see what the thought and plan is there, because they're not playing well at all. And you know, I know there's times where, you know, they're going to go through some hills and such like that and come down the slopes, but I think at this time I'm super skeptical they're going to be able to turn that around. And I know people are going to say something about Jamal Adams in the comments and whatever, but I feel like they are. This is 2 years in a row that I feel like the tackling on the team has just been really, really bad, and I don't know what the problem is there.
Yeah, I'm catching up now that we've got through the super chats, and keep those coming in. If you want to comment, showing on the screen. If you've got a question, then super chat, and we come to those. I'm seeing a real mix, because you are seeing sort of people going, perspective, you know, injuries, got the win, and I think that's a very valid thing to say. And then there are people sort of saying, well, you know, this has not been particularly great, and stuff like that, and there are some issues there. So I don't know. What I think frustrates me though is like, let's just not reduce it. Like, somebody's posted in the live chat, like, weren't you the guys saying fire the coach after week 1? I mean, we quite rightly reflected on some lingering issues that have gone on for too long after that first game, and you could even argue today that some of those issues still exist. That's just having an honest conversation about stuff. It doesn't have to be that you are eternally positive or eternally negative, and that when the team wins and you don't automatically come on and just stubbornly go over the same points again, that you're in any way inconsistent, or that you can't enjoy a win or talk about positives and negatives with balance. I don't understand this. Like, this idea that it's almost like we've maybe it's social media, maybe it's the comments, maybe it's the way that people interact with each other these days, that if people aren't consistently either positive or negative, people complain. But then if you do just stick to being positive, people complain at that. If you do just stick to being negative, people complain at that. You can't frigging win. Like, all we're doing here is having an honest conversation about the Seahawks. That means there are going to be positives, there are going to be negatives. We will talk about has this been too many years with a bad start on defense? We will praise things when we feel they need to be praised. I mean, look, we spent the first 10 minutes of the stream last week just waxing lyrical about Tyler Lockett. I mean, this is just, for me, Robbie, this is the only way to debate, and to have people coming on in the chat and saying, well, aren't you the guys who were saying this after week one? It's like, the exact kind of person who will not be popping up in the live chat. The Seahawks get blown out next week. And we'll be here talking about it all, positive and negative, warts and all. So people are saying Devon Witherspoon played well, Robbie. Was that, in what ways did he play well? I think he led the team in tackles. So was he doing well in run support? Was he sort of getting up to the line and doing that? What was his coverage like? Any big plays? Tell me about Devon Witherspoon.
Yeah, I mean, I think he played lights out today. He was all over the field. So big hits, super fast, breaking down the ball. If I remember correctly, there was like maybe one or two plays that he actually gave up that were for some decent yardage. But I mean, man, I thought he played really, really well. So it was actually, he was one of the bright spots for me that I was like, that was nice to see. Spending a 5th round pick on a corner and wanted to see him come up and play really, really well. I felt like this was almost like a coming out party for him because he looked great today. I felt like.
Yeah, well, that's good to hear because they're going to need him. They need some blue chippers, Robbie, and it's a shame, obviously, that the blue chipper might have to be DB instead of DL because I think the way that the NFL has gone now, the top teams do have a game wrecker up front. The Chiefs, Chris Jones, the Niners, Bosa, the Eagles kind of like do it by committee, don't they? But they do kind of have an impactful defensive line. But if Devon Witherspoon can come in and have an impact there, whether it is just playing physical, tough football, shutting down opponents on the outside, then that's going to be really good. And look, they drafted him for his energy. They drafted him for his grit. They drafted him for his attitude as well as the play. So it's really encouraging to hear that he had a good game, especially because today, look, he wasn't playing a difficult opponent today. So you want to see him do well in these games because the Panthers don't have a Justin Jefferson or somebody like that. He ain't going to come up against the best of the best. So this is a really, this is a game for him to shine. So yeah, kudos to him for having a good game. Look, we've danced around it. I was watching a play, Robbie. I think, was it the first touchdown to DJ Chark? And I'm watching the replay. I caught a glimpse of it on Red Zone at the corner of my eye while I was doing the other broadcast, the national broadcast over here. And I wrote down number 20, who is that? And then in the next break that I had, I Googled the Seahawks roster, found number 20. It's Julian Love. I think he whiffed on a tackle, which led to that big play, or there was something going on there. He's been talked up all off-season as this great addition, this fantastic signing. Is it getting to the point now where they've... I know Jamal Adams is coming back. I don't think they feel like they can trust Jamal Adams to play a full role as a safety anymore off his injury. I think they're going to use him as an impact player on this defense, as a weapon rather than as a every down type. But is there anybody else? I've not had a look at the roster. Is there anybody else that they might think about sticking in here, Robbie? Because Kobe Bryant missed the game with a toe injury. It's almost getting to the point now where how much longer do you persevere with Julian Love? Because he's starting to look pretty dreadful.
Yeah, I mean, Kobe Bryant would be the obvious solution to throwing him in there at the safety position. I feel like, this is past tense now, but I mean, signing him, he's not doing anything that Ryan Neal wasn't doing. And Ryan Neal was doing it better. So I'm super confused. Maybe he's just not used to the scheme. I'm not sure, but yeah, so far it's been pretty poor. And today was another example of how bad it was. And I mean, and it sticks out pretty bad that how bad he was. But and thank you. So someone said that. I wasn't sure if that was on Quandre Diggs or if that was on Julian Love. I wasn't sure. And even the announcers kind of had said something earlier that they weren't sure, like they mixed up who was supposed to be, if they were playing man or if they were playing zone. I don't think either of them knew. So yeah, that's super frustrating.
It's hard to sort of think that, because Ryan Neal was really good at times last year. Now, look, Ryan Neal has, some injury issues, but he was really good. And given the cap situation, it feels like he's gone, and Julian Love has come in, and if anything, they seem to have downgraded with that swap. So he needs to get a shift on here, because if I were the Seahawks, hopefully Kobe Bryant, I've not heard anything. If anybody has, put in the comments about Kobe Bryant. It would be good to know if that's an injury that he can come back from quite quickly, because I just wonder if he's going to be starting soon with Julian Love's struggles. And it'd be nice to see a bit more from Quandre Diggs. I mean, he's had a very noisy offseason, Robbie. You know, we seem to be complaining about his Madden rating, complaining about his ranking on whatever list it was. It'd be nice to sort of see him make a big play soon, wouldn't it? You know, an interception, a pick six, something like that, you know, to really get energy into his season, because it's not really happened for him so far. If you look at the PFF ratings from the first 2 weeks of the season, they were dreadful for both Diggs and Julian Love. And this is supposed to be really a strength of the team, you would say, given the investment.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, for sure. I missed most of what you're talking about earlier. I'm sorry, I had to jump off.
I was complaining about the fact that people, you know, we have to have this never-ending debate.
I'm gonna touch base on that, because I see a lot of people complaining that they think we're like being Debbie Downers or whatever. We're just having like a proper conversation about the game and like what we think of the Seahawks. Like, yeah, they won by 10. That's great against the Panthers team. That's absolute garbage. For me, I expected the team to be more. Granted, we put up 37. I'm not trying to be like that guy that's like super like nitpicking about everything, but I'm worried about the future of the team, the franchise, and the way we're playing now. I'm worried that, you know, what happens when we play a team that like Arizona, who looks like they're playing like dogs right now. They're going out and like putting it to people, and I just want to go out and put it to a team and just make myself feel better about it. It doesn't seem like that's what we're doing. So just trying to have a proper conversation about it, not trying to be Debbie Downers or piss anybody off. We're just here to have a conversation about the good and the bad.
That's I'm glad you said that, and I hope we don't have to keep bloody justifying, you know, why. Look, we're talking about the game as a whole. This is not a stream. There may well be other streams out there, if you want, guys who are just going to come on and go, everything is awesome. What's that from the Lego movie? Okay, there's probably going to be people who will do that. We're going to talk about the positive and the negative. We talk about things like Jaron Reed looking great. You know, we talk about Devin Witherspoon looking really good. We're going to talk about Julian Love struggling. We're going to talk about positives, negatives. Let's get on to a positive, Robbie. As I say, because I only had half an eye on it, it seemed like it was muddling along the running game for a while, but then Ken Walker make a big play. I mean, that first big run, I think it was the first big run, Robbie, where he got outside and he sort of just dropped a shoulder and shook off the defensive back, who didn't seem to have any interest in tackling him. I don't blame him. But then he sort of broke into space, charged down the right sideline, huge gain. That's the Ken Walker that I was so excited to see at the next level, because he's clearly got the size, he's got the speed, he showed he can run in the Big Ten, you know, big running conference still, and made big plays there. When you sort of see that difference-making athleticism in an amazing combine, when you see that showing up at the NFL level, it's very exciting, and it's complemented nicely by the hard running of Zach Charbonnet. I mean, that guy runs so hard. There's a reason why we spent 2 years talking about him. It was never because the Seahawks desperately need another running back drafted in round 2. It was simply because this guy is quality. This guy looks like a Seahawk. He's got the build, he's got the traits, he's got the attitude, he's got the running style, driving through contact. It seemed to me he was a little bit unlucky, Robbie. Is that fair to say? There were some plays that hurt him with penalties and stuff like that. And I still think there's more they could do with Zach Charbonnet. I mean, why on earth they had back-to-back Wildcat plays with DJ Dallas? You'll have to explain that one to me, Robbie. And did they end up punting us or kicking after that as well? I can't remember what it was. But I want to see more Zach Charbonnet. I want to see even more Ken Walker. I want to see this offense at its max. I don't think we've necessarily seen this offense. We got close against Detroit. It was very, very good. But I still think there's another gear for this offense, given the talent they've got. And it's just so many weapons. And I really hope maybe next week will be it, Robbie, because the Giants are kind of fumbling and bumbling all over the place. I kind of feel like we're gonna learn a lot about this team on Monday Night Football next week. So I still think there's a bit more to come from this offense. But I was really pleased to see Ken Walker getting some production late on, getting a couple of touchdowns, and good to see Zach Charbonnet showing the kind of talent that he has, because he's a fun player to watch.
Yeah, we've got an absolute fun 1-2 punch there at running back, and I can't wait to see Kenny McIntosh get involved in this offense as well. I think those three guys are going to be fun to throw in the mix. And shout out to this. I think someone just posted it, but shout out to the offensive line today for the way the run blocking there was, I think, phenomenal. And to have the injuries that we did and the way that they ran the ball, super fun to see. And I think some of these hits that the running backs are putting on the DBs and that some of the juke moves are pretty great. There was one run that got called back that Walker had that was pretty epic, and I was really bummed that it got pulled back because of a penalty, because he made a couple of heck of moves that were really fun to see, and I really like this crew. I'm really excited to see what they can do forward. I'm really excited about them. These running backs are fun.
A couple of super chats have come in. This from Joe. Appreciate the stream, and you guys just be honest about how you feel. Not everyone will agree, but be true to yourselves. Thank you, Joe. That's all we try and do. At the end of the day, we're both massive Seahawks fans and want to see the team do well. But, these streams are never going to just be flowers and rainbows. We're going to talk about everything that we think about the team. Good, the bad, and everything in the middle. Blitzy the Clown, big support of the channel. Blitzy, thank you for the super chat. Shout out to Anthony Bradford. Dude has some BAMF BAMF to his game. I saw him dishing out punishment to the whistle numerous times today. He was a solid part of today's offense, and I like him going forward. Completely agree with that, Blitzy. There's just something about these LSU linemen, Robbie, that I like. I liked Damian Lewis. I liked Anthony Bradford. I was watching a center this weekend. I watched a bit of the LSU Arkansas game. I was kind of flipping between 3 games on YouTube last night. That's the world I have to live in now, given that the British TV broadcasts are useless and have not provided me with college football. But I was watching the LSU center, who my name has gone blank, because I've basically been on the radio for about 8-9 hours live. Charles Turner. I've watched him 3 times now, and I like what I see. I think he's a very talented player. Just wanted to mention that. Just somebody I really enjoyed watching. Think he could be a day 2 pick in the draft next year. But with Anthony Bradford, although a team is not in there yet, but I'm sure that eventually it will come to that point. You've got Damian Lewis. That it feels like there's some young quality in that interior, Robbie, and they all play with an attitude. They've got a bit of aggression about them, haven't they? And that's what you want to see from this offensive line. And hopefully they can get Abe Lucas back and they can get Charles Cross back, and we can actually see the starting offensive line together, because it feels like we've not had that this year. But good to hear from Anthony Bradford, because they might need him next year, because they are going to have to save money somewhere, and maybe sort of having Anthony Bradford as a right guard, Robbie, next year might be needs must.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's better than Phil Haynes anyways, so he should be starting. I think he has the potential to grow even more to be a heck of a guard. So yeah, good call out there, Blitzy. I think that was a good call out. I really like the way the offensive line played just in general. I know the tight ends are coming down and helping the tackles quite a bit, and they're doing a lot of things there. But I mean, the tight ends caught a lot of passes today, and they were running their routes, so they weren't just in there the whole time. So it was, and they opened up a lot of holes for our running backs.
Another super chat here from Duck on Quack 2498. I wonder if Duck on Quack is an Oregon fan. They had quite a weekend. I was sitting down there feeling very smug with myself, Robbie. Had a couple of what we call accumulators over here. I think we talked about this last week. You call them a parlay, I think, in American. I just keep thinking of Pirates of the Caribbean when I hear the word parlay. Duck on Quack. So I had a couple of handsome accumulators that included Colorado plus 21. And it took about 7 minutes of that game to realize that I'd made a huge mistake, because Oregon absolutely destroyed Colorado. Got here a little late. What was the general feeling about the defense today, says Duck on Quack. So, Robbie, you just, for those who maybe have turned in late, we've got some great live viewers, great numbers for the live viewing. Great to have you with us. Get your super chats coming in. Give it a rating out of 10, Robbie, and then just sort of give us a Cliff's Notes version of your review of the defense today.
A rating out of 10, I'd say probably a 5, maybe a 4. I mean, I don't know. Listen, Andy Dalton came in and put 27 points up on the defense, today, and that's not, and a defense that wasn't, he threw for 361 yards. I know he threw the ball 58 times, which is insane, but I think the run defense came in did a good job today. So let me give the shout out to the first the linebackers. I felt played a little bit better today. Not really the pass game, but
What was
definitely
Bobby Wagner like?
he's Bobby Wagner. He's amazing.
Come on.
No,
You're trying to trigger me here, Robbie.
I was trying to suck you into that one. Yeah. No, I don't think he played that. They actually was one time that was early in the game. They blitzed both Jordan Brooks and Bobby Wagner, and it was pretty sweet to see seeing them come down and blitzing together. But I feel like again he was more of a liability in the pass game than he was in the run game. I felt like he was there, pretty good, in the run game, but the pass game he was getting absolutely destroyed. But so was Brooks and everyone else. So not really shocking there. And then the D line held up. Listen, Cam Young, I don't think he had to stat today, but I'm pretty sure I saw him getting like double teamed a few times.
Who's that?
Cam Young.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure. I have to go back and double check that, but I thought I saw that like there was 2 or 3 times where he was getting like double teamed, and so he just kind of held the blocks and let guys kind of get in to get after the running backs and the quarterback. So it was great to see as well. I'll have to go double. Maybe someone can confirm that was Cam Young. Because I wasn't 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure it was. But overall, I felt like the defense was not great. I mean,
can I raise a point on the defense, because
sure,
I just wonder a little bit here whether the Rams were quite clever in that first game and thought, look, the Seahawks they're constantly talking about got to fix the run defense, got to fix that, and they were talking about that in the media. I don't know if Sean McVay kind of called the bluff on it a little bit and thought they're going to expect us to run at them and test them there, and we're going to be fully prepared to throw the ball around the field, which is what they did, and they did it well. And Matt Stafford had a great game. And when I watched that full game, as negative, I felt very negative about it because the defense didn't do anything and the offense didn't do anything. But you have to say, Matt Stafford was fantastic in that first game. He had a very, very good game. And then the following week, you kind of wonder, well, what's going to happen here? Are the Lions going to go back to the run? Are they going to be ones who test Seattle? But then maybe the Lions' best bet is to throw as well with their offense, and their running back got injured in the game and had to leave. They're sort of number one running back. So then there's that. And then I look today, and I'm sure that the Seahawks will get a lot of praise for the way they defended the run again. But the Panthers only tried to run the ball 14 times. And 2 of those runs are from Andy Dalton. So I'm guessing they weren't design runs. Maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong. They might have sneaked it at one point. I guess he may have done because he had a long of 10. So you can maybe tell me about that, Robbie, whether one of those was a sneak. But that means 12 runs. And 2 of those were from Laviska Shenault. So the running backs only ran 10 times in the game, and they've thrown the ball 58 times. So is this indicative of the run defense being fixed? Or is it indicative maybe of just teams are looking at what the Seahawks are offering right now and thinking we're better off attacking them in the passing game? Because 58 throws is quite something.
Yeah, I mean that's a lot of times to throw the football in one game. I mean, pretty crazy that's what the game plan was. But my guess is they probably came down and loaded the box as much and said Andy Dalton's going to have to beat us, and that's what it did, instead of letting Miles Sanders. By the way, I think Miles Sanders went out with an injury, so that could have been a factor in that as well. But yeah.
Got a super chat from Save the Geese. There's some of the people that have usernames on here. They bring a wry smile, and the fact that this guy's called Save the Geese always makes me smile. Especially, I think he's got a Batman avatar, and yet his name's Save the Geese. Maybe that one's going over my head, and there's a reason for it. But it makes me smile. Spoon was everywhere today. Thank you, Save the Geese. I hope they are saved, and good to hear that Devin Witherspoon was having a really good game. That's a big positive for the Seahawks. Mike, who's a big sport of the channel, has said worst day at the office, Denver defense or Sheffield United. So the reason he's asked that, Robbie, because before I hot tailed it back to the studio to do the NFL broadcast, I was calling the game in the Premier League, which was Newcastle at Sheffield United. And Sheffield United lost 8-0, which is the equivalent of Miami winning 70 points to 20. In that game there. So it is actually a fair comparison. And to be honest, having watched an 8-0 defeat for one of the local teams here, to then come and sit down and broadcast on the Chiefs destroying the Chicago Bears, it was like, can I not see some close games? You know, and I know the Seahawks were in a close game at the time. I was thinking, I just need something. I need some competition in my life on this Sunday. So we switched games to the Cardinals, Cowboys, and I got that. That need was filled in the second half there. Thank you for that super chat. Really appreciate it to Mike as well. Keep those coming in. So yeah, so where are we at here, Robbie? I was talking about this on the broadcast that it feels to me within the NFC like people were trying to think. Some of the comments and the comment. Yeah, I almost wish I couldn't read them sometimes. You know, to D Madgrass. In terms of the NFC, I think you had people trying to make the Cowboys like the third wheel of contending teams in the NFC. Not unduly either. They hammered the Giants and they hammered the Jets. But then they've gone and lost to the Cardinals. Bit of a reality check for them. I don't think Dak Prescott's good enough. Is the NFC, as we've talked about the NFC being wide open, is it actually the opposite of that? Is it a two-team conference? Is it the Niners who look absolutely fantastic and the Eagles and everybody else? Is that basically just the reality of the NFC right now?
I mean, that's how I would read it. I'd say, yeah, Niners are they could be the best team in the NFL, hands down. That felt gross coming out of my mouth. I hate that. And the Eagles are good too. So I mean, those are the two teams that I would look at and go, they're the class of the NFC right now. And everyone else is just playing for third.
Yeah, I mean, with the Eagles, people are saying they've not played that well yet, and I agree with that. That's fair.
Yeah,
I still think they have too much talent to carry on playing that way. I have to say, Robbie, I'm kind of hoping that they do at some point, just because I'm with you. When I watched the Niners, I stayed up for some stupid reason to watch like the first, I'd say almost like 60% of that game between the Niners and the Giants. And the Niners look really good. Like it annoys me to say it, but they look annoyingly brilliant. And I don't know. Like I can well imagine them, short of like some real serious injury misfortune. And look, Nick Bosa's had injuries, Brock Purdy's had injuries. They Deebo Samuel's had injuries, Christian McCaffrey's had injuries, but they've just got the perfect blend, Robbie, of they've got elite players at key positions. And then where they haven't maybe got the elite players, they've got elite coaching and who is elevating players to play above what would otherwise be their means. So someone like Brock Purdy, if the way that if he keeps going, he might even end up being in the bloody MVP mix, Robbie, just because. And I don't think he would succeed in any other offense other than, well, maybe McShay, but because of Kyle Shanahan. So what are we saying here, Robbie? Are we saying that this is it already looking a bit like it's at least the Niners, maybe the Eagles, and then everybody else? Because it's not just the Seahawks. The Seahawks are a bit hit and miss, and there's other teams that are more miss than hit. Look at the Vikings; they're 0-3, and they were one of the stronger teams in the NFC last year.
Yeah, it could always be worse, right? It could always be worse.
It could be worse. But I don't know. Maybe it's just is that where we're at? Is that right? Is it a two-team conference?
I mean, again, yeah, I think so. I think that at that point, I mean, I don't think we're on either the Eagles or the Niners level at this point. It's a long season. I get that. We're only week 3 in, but our defense needs a heck of a lot more improving to convince me otherwise. But that November game that you're going to, Rob, against the Niners, that's going to be a big one. I think if you're looking at the schedule and the Giants, and I mean, look, the Bengals aren't playing that good right now either. That's kind of crazy. And they were in championship, but they started out last year. They didn't start out good either. And then they turned it around. Then you got Arizona, Cleveland, who looks like they're playing well. Then Baltimore, Washington, Rams again. I mean, a lot of those games, I want to say, yeah, we should be able to win that, but I'm not confident in that yet. You know what I mean?
I think the 49ers are going to win the Super Bowl. Because the teams that could stop them in the AFC are Chiefs, I've seen the Chiefs tonight. Look, they've blown the doors off the Bears. There's just something not quite right there with them. They don't look at their best. And maybe there's plenty of football to be played, but I suppose they're the ones. The Bengals, Joe Burrow's out. What's his season going to be like? He's kind of not really got started, has it? The Bills, maybe I'm underestimating the Bills. They got a good win today, but I just don't see anybody, Robbie. There isn't really anybody there that makes me think they're going to beat them. And whereas the Niners had a tough start last year, recovered, but it wasn't enough to get ahead of the Eagles for the number 1 seed. I just think this year they're the version of the Eagles. They're just too bloody strong. And do you know what? I'd love nothing more than to beat them on Thanksgiving Day. If I'm going all the way over there to watch a Seahawks-Niners game, I want to win it. But they seem too good. They're too good. They've got players who are playing at a top level. And that Christian McCaffrey trade, I had a bit of a laugh when it happened. I thought it was a bit of a desperate trade. You need to hit on trades, Robbie. The good teams hit on trades and they do them the power of good. All of the winners seem to just hit on trades, don't they? The Rams won a Super Bowl by bringing in Von Miller and Odell Beckham, and the Chiefs have made good trades, and the Niners have made good trades. And back in the day, the Seahawks with Marshawn Lynch and Chris Clemens and people like that, you have got to it seems like the truly top teams see an opportunity and take it in the trade market. And that's where the Niners are, I'm afraid. David says, long-time watcher, I really appreciate all the content you put out. Your negativity always feels fair. Red zone timing needs some work. Safeties need to remember they're good. Seems fixable, right? Pass rush and run game improved, asks David. I still want a bit more from the pass rush, and the run game stuff. I want to believe that it's fixed. I'm just wondering whether teams, especially because Dalton threw it 58 times today, if teams are just attacking Seattle differently, and that I hope it can carry on and it can become a better pass defense. I'm intrigued, Rob, if they can get the pass rush going and can stop teams in the passing game where the teams then do go back to the run and start running well. That'll be the acid test. But first and foremost, you've got to be better against the pass. So let's see if they can do that. David, really appreciate your super chat. Thank you for that. Someone has mentioned in the comments, Robbie, that the bye is coming at a good time, and that definitely feels a right thing to say. The Seahawks have got a lot of injuries already. An early bye sometimes is a negative thing. It can kind of come too soon when you don't really want it. It might be the perfect time this time, Robbie. But when they do get back from that bye, I hope they find a way to avoid some of these injuries, because it feels like Seattle's injury report week to week for the last sort of 3-4 years must be the longest injury report in the NFL. There always seems to be about 20 names on it, Robbie.
Yeah, maybe they're overdoing it though. Remember the one year they didn't put Sherm's injury on there? They got dinged for it. They took a draft pick away or something like that, or big fine. So maybe they should overdo it now because of that. I'm not really sure.
As I was saying that point, I was thinking that maybe they just want to be overly careful. Here's a question that comes in. Look, I want to give a shout out to Jake Bober before we finish, because great to see him get his touchdown. But someone's just asked me this question on Twitter, or X, whatever it's called. And they've said, is this the least entertaining, least talented version of the NFL we have ever seen? And I was thinking this the other day, Robbie. It just seems like, I don't know. I think there's a point to that. I don't feel it doesn't feel as magical for whatever reason this year. And I feel like it's been on a bit of a downward trend for a couple of years, quite frankly. And maybe this is just as a Seahawks fan, maybe if you're a Chiefs fan or an Eagles fan or a Niners fan, you feel differently. But certainly, like, compared to where we were maybe like 8 to 10 years ago, does the NFL feel a bit generally weaker? Less entertaining?
I think they've tried too hard to make it too entertaining by, like, softening some of the rules on hits and things like that. So they want it to be high scoring. I mean, it's high scoring. You talk about the Dolphins putting up 70, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm still entertained. I still watch. I mean, I get excited every year. Or I always am just there's something about football season when it rolls around that just is like, I think maybe we just hype it up, like there's such a long break in between that draft and the season that I think maybe when it finally gets here, maybe it's a little bit of a letdown. You know what I mean? Like that might be just a little bit like you just have hyped it up too much in your head. But I mean, I still feel like it's great football. I don't know. I like it.
I still love football season. That's true. Like this, look, it's sport. When the season begins, there's that buzz. I don't know. And maybe you're right. Maybe it's just the rule stuff. Like when I was watching the Bears Chiefs game earlier, there was a Bears defender who there was a receiver. I think it was Pacheco. No, it was Pacheco was a runner, and he got to the outside and he was going for the pylon score a touchdown. And at the 1 yard line, the Bears defender put his head down to stop him getting into the end zone, and the helmets touched in the tackle. It was flagged as a like a targeting or an unnecessary roughness thing. But when you're a runner, that shouldn't be a penalty for that. And the Bears player actually had to leave the game. So he came off worse from the two players running into each other. And yet it was flagged. And it didn't really make much difference. It was either like 1st and goal or 2nd and goal, the 1 or the half yard line or whatever. But stuff like that makes me think, do you know what? You can get a little bit too much down that road. Like we all want to see the head taken out of the game. You can't see some of those head hunting things that we saw, 12 years ago. But you also don't want to see, stuff like that leading to penalties and whatever. When two players are going for it's a football play. One player's trying to score, one player's trying to keep it out, and the refs are getting the flags out. So and maybe it's also because some of the bad organizations typically have become the good ones. We have a little visitor. It's always good to get a visitor on, Robbie, whether it's a dog or a child.
Yeah, he's telling me his drawing has a hole in it and he's very upset by it.
Oh, well, it's some disappointing news. I hope that he's comforted maybe by a Seahawks win. I know that my children will not care in the slightest tomorrow when I wake up and tell them that the Seahawks have won.
I will tell you, for the first time, they were trolling me today.
Oh, really?
Yeah, for the first time. So they're 6-5, and they were trolling me hard. They're like, "What's the cat team?" I was like, "The Panthers." We're going for the Panthers. I was like, "Oh, excuse me." So what? And then they started laughing, and they thought it was super funny. And they were
Can I just say,
today.
I did not enjoy the away uniforms at home today, Robbie. I like the white on blue, but it did not look right at Lumen Field. I'm sorry. I was not a fan of that.
I'll say that there was early on in the game, I was pretty upset because it was like 3rd and 12, and there's 3rd and 12, and they panned to the crowd, right, and like everyone was just sitting down. And I was like, where is what's going on? And then all of a sudden we had we had a ton of false starts. Go ahead and talk, Rob. I was distracted.
I love the fact you've been distracted. You were being trolled again there, Robbie. You're being trolled for a second time now.
That's exactly what's happening.
Okay, well, look, I'll just make this quick final point. I think Jake Bobo deserves a real pat on the back and a mention here today because, having watched Bobo a lot, and admittedly that was because of Dorian Thompson-Robinson last year, and watching Zach Charbonnet and watching a lot of UCLA football. Bobo was like a nice side order to go with all of that as we were watching those guys. But to sort of see him end up in Seattle, having been a fan of his, I think it was ridiculous that he seemingly has been judged on his speed at a pro day where even Tyreek Hill would have run a 4.8, given the weather conditions. So to see Bobo come in, get his first NFL touchdown, delighted for that, Robbie. And he's another reason why I kind of just want a bit more from this offense, because he's another weapon. For me, he's a legit NFL player. Legit. Yeah. So you have 4 top impressive receiving options, a whole bunch of tight ends and 2 running backs. I want to see high octane top 10 offense, Robbie. That's what I want to see from this
I want to put up 70. How fun would that be?
I'll settle for just a few more of these 37s, I think. After having a half of football where they've got 3 meaningful yards in week 1, Robbie, I am not going to rush to 70. But,
hey, listen, if they'd have to settle for 5 field goals, we're right there.
Yeah, well, he didn't miss one today, did he?
He didn't. Didn't.
Whoa,
Yeah. I mean, listen, you asked me last week if I was worried at all about Jason Myers in the kick game. I wasn't. So good. I'm glad.
good, excellent. Well, first of all, I want to apologize to Curtis for not posting his notes until about half an hour before kickoff today. That's my bad. The unusual nature of having to work and then work again kind of sidelined me today. So really apologize to Curtis for not getting that up. If you want to go and check out his notes afterwards and see how brilliant he is, then I would recommend doing that. I stayed up till stupid o'clock in the morning last night, about 4:30, watching as much college football as I could, and I have some notes on the players that I kept an eye on. I will endeavor to get that on the blog ASAP this week. So SeahawksDraftBlog.com for all of that. Yeah. So 2-1, Robbie. And what is it? Monday Night Football next week. Bring it on. Giants.
Yeah. I'm excited about that.
Oh, that's going to be a very interesting game because the Giants have had a bit of a stuttering start. So to play them on Monday Night Football in that sort of arena there, I'm intrigued to see. I think we'll learn a lot about the Seahawks in that game.
I think it gives us an extra day of rest as well. You know, getting a couple guys back healthy. I think that's a good start, and I really like to see kind of like I don't know. Someone posted earlier, and I wanted to mention it because I think it's fantastic. I'm really excited. Sorry, my kids are just down here bringing it. I'm sorry if it's noisy.
Like a pass rush going on in the background.
Jesus. Yeah, they're tackling. I'm really excited to see Tariq Woolen and Witherspoon play together. If Witherspoon played like he played today and having Woolen back, I think that's going to be a fantastic combo. Someone said that earlier, so shout out to whoever said that. I totally agree with that. It's gonna be fun. So my point to that is having like if it gives an extra rest day for Woolen to come back and shoot, maybe we'll see the return of Jamal Adams. You'll never know.
I for one cannot wait to see Jamal back out
Sorry,
there.
I didn't mean to get negative.
No, I know it's a positive, Robbie. He's coming back to get his 9.5 sacks.
Yeah,
let's all be pleased. Can't wait to see him. You know, we'll I think we will see him next week because he seemed like Carroll kind of implied that he might not play. But this week, but then he'd be all go next week. So I look forward to seeing it. Look, I hope he has a fantastic year. I hope he wins Comeback Player of the Year. I hope he's amazing. Let's hope he is. But I'm very much looking forward to that game next week. So join us for that afterwards. We may well do a stream in the week. We'll sort of see how it's going. See what I've got time to do this week. If not, I might do a separate video on some draft thoughts and some general Seahawks thoughts in the week. So subscribe to the channel anyway you don't miss anything on the channel. Please like the video. If you've been with us today, if you could please go to the comment section of the video and post a comment, even if you've been joining in the live chat. It always helps with the algorithm. So really appreciate that. SeahawksDraftBlog.com for more analysis and for all of your draft stuff as well, leading up to the 2024 draft. Best place for Seahawks and draft content. So check out SeahawksDraftBlog.com. Robbie, it's always a pleasure to have a chat with you. And thank you for doing the heavy lifting again this week, as you did in week one, because I was waylaid trying to watch 3 games at once.
All good, man.
Good stuff. Right. 2-1 for the Seahawks. Onwards to New York. Thanks for your company. Some great live numbers. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate the super chats as well. Until next time, bye for now.